Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new Getting Color right here on the BigVitoBrand.com on Labor Day. I am Virtue, being joined by the man himself after a hot weekend of wrestling news to talk about.
Oh, man.
Big Vito. What's up?
How's everything, guys? I hope everybody's had a great weekend, a holiday weekend. It is September. It should start to cool down. But if you are a ball player, if you are outside, you're going to get some cooling weather. Today was an action-packed day for myself. Softball in the morning, some pickleball in the afternoon. Came home, made a little barbecue for the wife. Then went to the gym, hit the pool right here to broadcast for you, and then take care of business with the night job. Oh, yeah.
I smell like cookout because I was over a grill flipping burgers.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're a married man now. That's what you're supposed to do.
They smell like cookout. But are you ready to talk about these topics?
Big topics, guys. I hope you're ready. I hope you're listening. Virtue, take it away.
All right. So the first one is, I don't even know where to start here. So I guess that let's pick this. Okay. Let's pick CM Punk became the AEW World Champion again.
Okay.
At All Out. Okay. So talk about that. Okay. Them putting the title back on him, and then the media scrum afterwards of the things that he said, which CM Punk is known not to hold back, says stuff. And there's a lot of innuendo going around with backstage heat and politics or whatnot revolving CM Punk, Colt Cabana, the Young Bucks, Adam Page, Vito. It's like this. We're just stirring it all up. What is going on?
Hey, I just want to say hello to Annette. I hope you're doing good. I hope everything is wonderful. First, we'll take on the Moxley CM Punk.
Yeah, he became the match, and he became the AEW champion for the second time, the world champion.
It was a good, it gave some interest to the pay-per-view. It was in Chicago, his hometown. Baby faces never go down in their hometown, so it gave us some intrigue. From what I saw, decent match. You know what I mean? Good back and forth. We have a new champion.
Yep.
Very good. Go ahead. Take it from there.
All right. So, after the events, they do what they call the media scrums. And CM Punk basically was, he does this pipe bomb thing with whatever rumors that we hear from the dirt sheets that have leaked out from backstage, who has beef with who, this or that. He didn't hold back, and he said whatever was on his mind. And I know you wanted to talk about that.
Yes.
And, I've always been a fan of blurring lines, right, of reality or whatever. If it's right for business, if people can be professional. Vito, you have to tell me what's going on here.
Okay.
With this. Because you know what I mean? You can blur the lines. You can say controversial things that are shoots, but you still have to be professional with who you work with when you deliver the product on TV. Tell me what your thoughts are here with CM Punk and what he's said and everything that's revolving around him lately.
I watched this media scrum, guys, okay? And I did it during cardio. I sat, I said, let me watch this. I want to see what it's about. Tony Kahn is on his right. It's just after he won the world title, sitting there. First thing they ask him is about Colt Cabana. You just won a major title. You want to talk about your title win. They talk about Colt Cabana. Now, Colt Cabana and him do not get along. This has been going on for years. And the way he presented it to them, I have to take time out of my day to talk about somebody who I do not want to be friends with, who I do not associate with, who I don't give a shit where he works. I don't care what he does. And he has to address this because Mark reporters have to be assholes because they're fucking stooges. Every fucking one of you. Because you don't know nothing. You think you're in the fucking business of reporting. You're not. I come on this show and I don't say anything or bury anybody unless I know a fact or a true fact. I watch this thing just to be updated and up to the minute. Everything he said was 100% fucking on point about his relationship with Colt Cabana. Okay? Now, Tony Kahn is sitting there, and he's the guy who hires and fires people.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, and he looked like a fucking schmuck.
What do you think about his appearance as a billionaire owner of a wrestling company and other things, a football team as well?
He looks like a fucking mark. Tony Kahn, you look like a mark. You might have money, you might have jobs to give people, you might want to fucking hug everybody, but at the end of the day, you sat at this press conference with CM Punk, okay, you're a world champion, and you look like a fucking stooge. That's what even got me more boiled, because Vince McMahon would never carry himself in that decorum, never carry himself with that kind of dignity, okay? You can say what you want about Vince McMahon, the person, but as the businessman, suit, tie, billionaire, always up on point on how he dressed, how he looked, how he carried his company, how he wanted presentation. Okay? Then after the back and forth with CM Punk and how the thing played out, and that Colt Cabana shares a bank account with his mom.
Clean your room.
You are a grown fucking man. How do you share a bank account with your mom?
Now, this is alleged, though, right? We don't have proof of this, but it was said, right?
It was said.
It
was said from the discovery, okay? The way he explained it from the discovery, and his mother's name is Marge, and then they had to go and investigate her and subpoena her. Then the email came to say, hey, let's just forget about this and I'll pay my own bills. Embarrassing. Yeah. As a grown man, you are a fucking embarrassment. You go out there and you want to play fucking wrestler with your ho-ho and be a fucking idiot. All right? And he said again, he wanted to bring somebody along, but he never wanted me to get over. You jealous bastard. The guy got you a job. The guy brought you back to a job. The guy fucking made you money, and you go and be a scumbag to him. This is what I can't stand about the wrestling business, because a lot of fucking dirty people in it. All right. And you could say what you want about CM Punk and he's upright, but Vito LaGrasse has been speaking the truth since the day I've been fucking born, and nobody likes the truth and nobody likes my venom, because when I speak it, everybody fucking batting down the hatches because I'm coming at it and I'm saying it 100. Okay. And the way he had to explain this irritated me, because here's a guy who's hanging on, and because his other so-called friends, EVPs, helped him retain a contract at Ring of Honor, and this guy has not been seen, but he's making money on the side. That's the first part of it. Okay? Yeah. Now, second part, Adam Page, the Young Bucks, MJF. We'll go Adam Page first, okay? Here's a guy who comes on, doesn't know how to be a champion, doesn't know anything about the wrestling business except the basics. He just started. He got a shot in AEW. You're going to tell me, with all the great minds back there, you can't take advice from the greatest professional wrestlers who've done it 3 times over in their careers, and you can't take advice from them? Makes you fucking stupid.
Isn't that how the wrestling business is supposed to be? You take advice.
You pass it on. Pros pass it on. Yeah. That is what you do. If you're not a pro unless you pass it on. I have passed it on to many of people, and many of people could not handle the way I presented it to them. You got to have thick skin. It's either you're going to make it or you're not. You got it or you don't. You either put your work in or you don't put the work in. But if the business is not going to give you, you have to go get the business. Okay? Now, they get to the Young Bucks being EVPs, right? So if you're EVPs of the EVPs of the EVPs, yes, the Young Bucks have had success in the wrestling business on the independent level. When it comes to the major circuit, how much success have the Young Bucks got?
I mean, it's all within that wrestling bubble. See, they're defenders, Vito, and that's not me by any means. We'll say, well, they have T-shirts, a Hot Topic in the malls. But have they wrestled at WrestleMania? You know what I mean? Like there's a big difference of being huge in the wrestling bubble and being huge in that and everywhere else.
Let's take a guy like and I'm not making fun of anybody, I'm praising them, okay? Let's take Steve Lombardi.
Yep.
Everybody says, fucking jobber, son of a bitch. Fuck you. You suck.
He was in the Heenan family. The Brooklyn Brawler. Yeah.
Okay, now, there's a guy who made millions of dollars in the wrestling business, worked for the biggest corporation, being a job boy, right? An enhancement talent. But what they don't know is Steve Lombardi also worked backstage being a producer. Mm-hmm. And he helped talent grow. And he helped many a talent elevate in their careers. Right? So who's more valuable? The Steve Lombardi or the Young Bucks?
I pick Steve Lombardi all day long.
Okay.
When it comes to that.
Now, let's take a guy like Jim Powers. Good looking. Body worker. Been there. He also worked for the WWE, the WWF, right? He worked up and down the card. He helped bring guys along. He helped teach me, right? So you take a guy like Jim Powers who enhanced many of careers. Are you going to take the Jimmy Powers experience and him elevating talent like that in the 80s and 90s? You're going to take the Young Bucks.
Powers.
Right? So you're looking and you say, okay, what about the guys, okay, famous guys like Stan Hansen, who said, we're all carpenters. We're also supposed to work together. And if it wasn't for the carpenters of the business, there wouldn't be any stars. Right?
That's true. That's you have to have the great heels to have the great babyface stars that are over.
Right. But do people realize that the guys who do the work are the guys with the most potential to teach and pass it on? Think about that, people. Think about that real hard. Let's take Skull Von Crush. Coming into business. First match, The Rockers. Second match, Bret Hart. Third match, the British Bulldog. You got the Big Boss Man. You got the Undertaker. You got Virgil. You got High Energy. You got Legion of Doom. The list goes on, right? Those guys took the time to teach me. And I never forgot that. Because that was what a pro was. And the guys I mentioned, like Steve Lombardi, Jimmy Powers, S.D. Jones, Cousin Luke, the Honky Tonk Man, Johnny Rods, so many other. I know I'm missing names, and I appreciate. I always say I appreciate all those guys.
Iron Mike Sharp.
My former tag team partner on Monday Night Raw, the 4th episode against High Energy, right? But a guy like that, those guys took the time to teach me because that was the way I was taught. And how did I reciprocate? By teaching guys after me. And it was tough love for a lot of guys out there, but it's love that they understood years later because that's the way what they took the time to teach me. And here you are with Steven Regal. You have Dean Malenko. You got Mark Henry. You got Billy Gunn. You got Jerry Lynn. Jake the Snake Roberts. Arn Anderson. You mean to tell me that you can't pick their minds and you can't ask them for help to be a star in this business?
Oh, but everybody's got to go to Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks because they're the EVPs.
You could say, how could you be an EVP if you're never a superstar in wrestling? The WWE didn't hire you because you didn't have the it factor.
Man, Tony Kahn got duped with that. And Cody, he was one of them too. And I know you've had a lot of choice words with Cody. He gone. You know, he went back to WWE. That was interesting that happened.
Yeah, but you got to understand something, right? He doesn't know his ass from his elbow as far as who he wants to be in the wrestling business. I want to be Cody Rhodes. I want to be, I don't want to be recognized as Dustin's brother. I don't want to be known as Dusty Rhodes' son, right? He tried to make it as the American Nightmare in AEW, flopped. Was not over at all. Could not get over. He did everything possible to get over. Nothing. He didn't move the needle for ratings. Did not. What happens? There was something that happened with money and power and position. He took his ball. He went back to the WWE. If you think they're going to push him like they promised, then they're going to destroy him.
I wish, yes, that you and I agree with that for sure. And nobody wants to hear that. But of course, there's a timeout right now because of his injury.
Right.
So to be continued for sure with that one.
Right. And in the chat, Mike Sharp, Charlie Fulton, you're right. And there's a guy in there told him to go to Iron Mark Sharp School. It's closer to Staten Island. Paul Vandale, I have no idea who that is. Who in the blue hell is Paul Vandale? I don't know. Anyway, now we get to the coup de grace. When it came time for CM Punk to acknowledge MJF. Now,
yes, so with that being said, before you continue, guess who's back? MJF, and they pulled a lot of smoke and mirrors to make him come back, but he's back. And by the way, if I'm a little choppy, there's a storm coming through, as long as you can hear me. As long as you guys can hear me. All right. So here you go. I set the table. MJF is back.
Guys, CM Punk also addressed this during the scrum. And the face he made to deal with him, and he said, the grass is not greener. It's how you water it on this side. And you always think the grass is greener on the other side, which it is not. And MJF made a lot of controversy, made a lot of enemies back there, okay? And here's another guy who has not made it to the top of the wrestling business. Like CM Punk said, these kids think they all deserve the top spot. How do you get to the top spot and think you deserve it when you've never been there to begin with, and you don't have the experience on TV, and you never made it in the big time? And when you come to AEW and you get a little bit of a push, all of a sudden, everybody thinks they're a top guy. How is this possible?
Tony Kahn. And let me read you this here. Tony Kahn about WWE competition. I'm not going to sit back and take this effing shite. That's coming from the CEO billionaire of a wrestling company. Is he a character? Is this a Mr. McMahon character now? What's going on? But that's why this is happening with these young guys, with this MJF, with the Young Bucks. He's giving them this power. And have they paid their dues? I don't know.
Absolutely not.
I don't think so.
Now, Kenny Omega was supposed to be the shining star, supposed to be this great wrestler. But the shit he did in Japan with a blow-up doll and a child and all this other nonsense, he comes here, he becomes world champion, he looks like a schmuck. I was totally disappointed by his run because everybody jumped on his bandwagon. And where is his bandwagon now? So it all disappeared. There's no more manager. There's no more hoopla. There's no more this. There's no more that. He's vanilla. I said he was vanilla from day one. Okay?
Ooh, they got some trios championship. Was that match last night, that trios title match? I don't even know what happened where. I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm just going for the growth here, the grit, the what you are, right? When you talk about Vince McMahon, you say how you carry yourself. Vince McMahon was in the public. I'm not talking about Vince McMahon, the character.
Yeah.
Because you never seen him do a media scrum, because billionaire owners don't do that. You hold a press conference larger than life because you are the center of attention. You are the owner of a major company, and you come out and carry yourself as such.
And Vito, he used to be on the stockholders' calls, Vince, and he, like, when he's had to say something, it was very by the book, almost like what he was told to say about, you know what I mean? You know how it is with the NFL coach, some NFL coaches like Stefanski in Cleveland, just boring, drab, but he's not giving any information out. He's staying professional. That's how Vince McMahon has always been about the business.
Right. And then when it comes to cursing in the media as a character. Character and person and business are two different things. The character acts a certain way, but when it comes to Vince McMahon, the businessman, billionaire, suit tie, how to carry yourself and walk that corporate line, he always kept that. When he was an announcer, he kept that look. He kept that dignity.
Yeah.
He didn't come out and sit there like a stooge, like a puppy dog to all these wrestling guys. And that's what aggravates me more than anything. Is that he might be a billionaire, he might have all this money, he might have all this stuff, right? But if the guys don't respect you, at the end of the day, what do you have?
And to be fair, when he did become like a big, not the announcer stuff, but when he did become a big villain, like as a character, I don't think he forced himself into that. It happened organically because the way Austin got over with the crowd, and Vince did an interview, and people knew he was the boss, and it just kind of happened. I don't think it was like a forcing of it. You know what I mean? Like Tony Khan forcing his way into, hey, I'm the owner of AEW.
Oh, you're right.
It was like organic. It was like if Austin never took off there, I don't think Vince would have became an on-screen character. It just because it was the right time. That's a huge difference with, I mean, if Tony Khan starts showing up every week on Dynamite to like battle MJ, that's what we
That's
don't
going to be
want.
ugly. And now you have somebody. Here's another thing. You know, my wife made a good point, right? She said, "How could you respect somebody that flips off kids and rubbed everybody the wrong way? And how could you look at that company with respect if they're going to make him the top star?" I happen to agree because I think he's a disgusting human being, the way he carries himself. He's nothing special. He's a little guy. He's nothing. And when it come to the ratings, he came back. Okay, now what?
And what did they do back in the day with the heel, with Pipers? They kept them away from fans in the crowd, so they didn't have to break kayfabe, but they didn't have to, right? Isn't that kind of what they did? They stayed away. The heels traveled together, tried not to be seen in public. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that, you know what I mean? He didn't go to media scrums.
And every time Tony Khan referenced him as the greatest wrestler in the world, CM Punk cringed. CM Punk looked like he didn't want to work with this kid. Doesn't like this kid. He was irritated by the fact that he's got to be here. Now, I could say if they put the world title on him, close your company.
On MJF?
Yeah, close your company. Ain't nobody going to want to watch that garbage. Nobody. I don't think the guys in the back who are real wrestlers who put their time in, now they don't want to hear this garbage.
Devil's advocate, the wrestling bubble of the Meltzer fans, you know where I'm going with this, that diehard AEW fans, they want it.
Yeah, but it's a small niche.
I just have to say that because
it's a small niche.
That's okay. You're right. That's right.
It's a small niche who want it.
Yep.
So how do you justify it, right?
Yeah.
So you look at that, you look at a bunch of other things, and at the end of the day, right? I listened to something else that Chris Jericho was defending the company on a recent interview, and he said, "We're not trying to beat anybody. We're not trying to beat NXT. We're in our own world," which is correct. They are. Okay. So he made that. He represented and talked about his company. Okay. And he did it the right way because he's working for somebody, he's promoting a company. Does he believe in it off camera? I can't answer that. On camera, he said all the things politically correct for you to say, hey, Chris Jericho's with AEW. Hey, he believes in a product. Does he really believe in the product? Does he really believe when he watches it?
And he did say, Jericho did say we beat their ass in ratings when they were head-to-head with NXT, which was a fact because they you know, even though it was developmental, we get what NXT is. They beat head-to-head. AEW beat NXT, I think, all but maybe 2 weeks that whole time they were against each other, so he kind of waited. He presented something that was technically factual. That's just veteran right there. Like you know what I mean? If he said that and you really didn't have that proof that happened, they were on a different night, you know what I mean? Then you're like, all right, come on. But Jericho at least knew to do that.
And, you know, when it comes to doing business, you know, John Moxley, you say, John Moxley. He won the title. He gave it back. He's doing business. Everybody's happy. He's going to go. He doesn't need the belt, right? And when you're doing business with people, that's how you made money, by giving the prop back and forth to see what we could do to how we could get money in the door, right? He also made mention that they had their first $1 million house. That's big for a company like that. That's big. They make $1 million in a day.
I thought they've had a few on their pay-per-views, but I'm not quite sure. I thought some of their all-outs or some of their pay-per-views have broken.
But still,
$1 million.
When you're making $1 million on a house,
That's a big deal. Whether it's happened once or 5 times, it's a big deal.
You're doing something, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the card.
Wow. I'm sorry.
I saw Ruby Soho break her nose.
Somebody's always breaking something legit.
But that's another thing too. Was the girl reckless with the knee? Was she too in a rush? Was Ruby Soho and not protecting herself? I mean, she broke her nose, and then everybody just stood there. The referee didn't call for nothing, didn't say nothing, counted 3, and he was looking like, oh, what the hell? And she's covering her nose, obviously. The girl's telling her, listen, she broke her nose, and nothing. Then you had the Eddie Kingston Ishii match. Now, guys, I watched the match. If you think a Japanese guy, just because he comes here, is strong style, and you just sit there and you don't sell, it's a different kind of wrestling in Japan. That wrestling doesn't work here, right? An Ishii guy is not a big guy. Okay, and if you're going to stand there and take a beating, take 50 chops, does that make you tough? Does that make you strong style?
What did you think, since you mentioned that, I don't know if you saw it, what did you think of the Gunther versus Sheamus match from Clash at the Castle? Did you happen to catch that?
Yeah, I caught that.
I thought that was pretty good. Now they're going home. They went home that night with marks on them, but Sheamus
is a rough and tough wrestler. He's always been like that. He's a big dude. Mm-hmm. He's wrestled like that. This Gunther kid, it was on his level as far as competing against him, tough for tough. And that's the kind of match they pitted each other against.
Yeah.
Right? So you say, okay, good match of good booking. I would watch it again. Why not?
I agree. Yeah.
What else you got on the list?
So we've talked about AEW pretty much the whole time. Let's go ahead, and this is a back and forth you and I have. And I was doubting if he was going to leave this weekend still as the Universal WWE Champion, and he is. Even over in the home territory, because it wasn't his country, right? Drew McIntyre's from Scotland. They were in Wales, very close. I thought they would pull the trigger. You mentioned, hey, let's strip Roman of the titles and we can free both belts up. Roman has both titles still. They didn't pull the trigger. Now there was a little, theory came out like he was going to cash it in. I don't know how they're going to get out of that because I don't know if that guy's ready. The whole Tyson Fury boxer from England punched him out. I thought that was a creative spot just to get Theory out of the picture. They had Karrion Kross there, who is back because he's a Triple H guy, but he's already inserted like he's like mixing it up, like going to end Reigns' streak down the road. Like, I think you got to be built up first. And then guess what? The bloodline got bigger. Rikishi's son, the Usos' brother, Solo Sika, whatever his name is, Solo, they're building the bloodline even bigger, and that's how Roman retains. So here we are, Vito. Now what's next?
No, it really isn't.
It's The Rock. The Rock, there's no reason they're doing that. It to me, he said, I'll see you there in April in Hollywood. To Triple H, to the team, to WWE, I think he's made sure his Hollywood schedule is going to be free. I can't see any other way. Yeah,
but if you have The Rock come in, does The Rock put him over, or does The Rock win the title?
I don't know, man. And Roman doesn't need title. Like, he could still drop these titles. Maybe The Rock comes back and is that reason why to be the reality check, and then that can set up the bloodline feud, right? The legendary Rock. You don't need titles. but I have a feeling it's been so long of a reign now. So to me, this is happening. They got enough money invested into Roman, and I can't see any other way, Vito.
Guys, I'm going to say
You've been
something
saying
in the
Brock's
chat.
going to beat him, and every time there's a match, I'm getting ready to tell you were right. And Vince McMahon's not even there because he's the Roman supporter, like push my guy. They're all in. I think they got the Rock sign, man, for that next year. I really do.
Let me just throw this at you. Like, I know I haven't said this, and it's been on my mind.
Finish it up. It's all you know.
Guys, when it comes to something like this, and there's a stalemate of something like this, and somebody's bigger than the company, where there really isn't somebody who you want to have the titles, what happens if Roman Reigns holds a press conference and gives up the titles himself?
Retires.
Not retire.
No? Okay.
Just say, I get tired of holding these. I really don't need these. Tosses them aside like they're garbage. Now he disrespected the WWE. Now there's a reason for The Rock to come back as a babyface to kick the shit out of him. Right?
Is there any chance, and I've been thinking about this, if The Rock does come in for this feud, they can do a double turn and have Rock be the Hollywood heel like he's played before and push Roman as the babyface? Or would that not make sense with this run that Roman has had? Because there's been a lot of cheating. You know what I mean? Interference to keep.
It's got to be The Rock is a babyface. They're not going to do anything with The Rock.
Yeah. But he's played a great heel before, though, right? That's why I was.
But The Rock is a one-time player. You're not going to bury him because then what are you going to do? Bring him back as a heel and turn him back babyface?
Yeah.
You keep him as babyface. But if Roman starts disrespecting the WWE, tosses the belt aside, strips down, goes into Titan Towers, rips The Rock's picture down, rips Vince McMahon's picture down, rips Andre the Giant's picture down.
I like it,
Now you're causing heat. WWE, you're allowed to use this idea. Have him start to tear apart Titan Towers and everything that has been built up so The Rock can meet Roman Reigns at WrestleMania to get his ass kicked. That is booking 101.
I love it. And you know what? Like we always say, because he's still the champion right now, to be continued. We'll be talking about this through WrestleMania season.
We will.
Vito, anything in closing? That's all I have for the hot topics, and we talked about them all. Anything you'd like to talk about we didn't mention?
Guys, you can, no matter what profession you're in, right? Don't ever say you're uncoachable. And I'm going to say this because my wife happened to come with me this weekend and was around pickleball, right? And everybody knows I'm very athletic, and I picked it up. And when it comes to softball, pickleball, one thing guys always said, and wrestling, basketball, Vito, you're coachable. And I always take guys and I sit there for a little bit of training. Even at this position in my life, I listen to these old-time pickleball training. There's a world champion pickleball player I play with. So I went up to him this week. I said, listen, I'd like to play professional pickleball. I said, do I have the tools to do it? He said, Vito, you have the tools, but you don't have the knowledge. And I asked him, I said, can you help me? Can you train me? Sure, Vito, no problem. So we went on the courts afterwards, and he watched my footwork, watched my position, watched the way I was doing this. And this is after an hour and a half of playing, right? So I'm a little gassed. It's in the sun. It's in the heat. But the thing is, people, when you have veteran players out there and I ask their critique, I'm not ashamed to take criticism. One thing they say, Vito, you're a big guy. You can get to any ball. You're athletic. You move. It's just figuring out the game. That goes for wrestling. Figuring out the game. For baseball, basketball, football, if you're not coachable, you're not going to learn. If you don't have questions, you're not going to learn. If you don't take advice, you're not going to learn. This goes in any profession outside of sports. The accounting business, there's certain ways to do things and certain ways to do other things, right? And in banking and baking and restaurant and anything, always be coachable because you can always learn something.
Agreed. Yeah, well said. Well said, Vito. Another great show. And people, you can always catch us on social media. We're on Facebook, but more, Twitter is what I use most. And Vito, I always see him over there. So follow him on Twitter at the Big Vito Brand. Follow me if you'd like at NoDQ_Virtue. We do Getting Color here each and every week on the BigVitoBrand.com, and it's always a great time. So if you ever want us to talk about something particular, let's go ahead and tweet us some ideas, and we will try to squeeze it in as a topic on this show. For Big Vito LaGrasso, former WCW Hardcore Champion, I'm Virtue. We will see you again next time. Thanks for watching and listening.